In today's Gospel, we hear the calling of Peter, James and John to come follow Christ. Now, we've probably all read or heard this account many times before, and it can be really easy to forget the fact that this calling isn't just for Peter, James and John. Today, Jesus is calling all of us to come follow him. And not only that, but this calling we read about in today's Gospel for Peter, James and John to be evangelists is a calling that is on all of us as well. It is the core fundamental mission of what it is to be Christian, to be a member of the church, to be a follower of Christ. We are called to mission, to go out into the world and to proclaim the good news. That is our core business. It's the bread and butter of what it means to be a Christian. One of the things that I think is really worth highlighting in today's story is the fact that Jesus tells Peter to take his boat out into the deep, where it's a bit more risky, and then he tells him to cast out his net. And then once they cast out their net and they catch the fish, Peter and his companions have to do the hard work of pulling the fish back in again. This is the perfect metaphor for what evangelism is supposed to actually look like. Jesus doesn't say to Peter, just stay in the shallows where it's nice and safe and easy, and just wait because I'm here with you. Someone's built this nice boat and the fish are going to start jumping into the boat any second now, and we'll return with a full load of fish in a minute. That's not what evangelism is. Evangelism requires us to take risks. It requires us to go out into the deep. It requires us to do things where perhaps the boat is going to rock a little bit, and it might feel unpopular and difficult, and we might encounter resistance from people. But that is the heart of evangelization. We are then called to throw out our nets. We actually have to proclaim. We have to go out. We don't just sit there waiting and it all unfolds before us. We actually have to go out into the world and we have to proclaim. And then we have to do that hard work of pulling the nets back in. Evangelism is a process, and often it can take years. Some people it's very quick, but for a lot of people it can take years of continual engagement with the church before this gospel message really begins to take seed in their lives. That is the reality of what our evangelism is supposed to look like. It is not a matter of saying if we build it, they will come. As long as we've got Jesus and we're in the boat together, people will magically just start jumping in. That's not how evangelism works, and today's gospel is a powerful reminder of that. So, if we aren't doing any of the going out and casting our nets, what are we going to do about that? We actually need to be going into the world, not just sitting in our churches and holy huddles and being nice to the people who happen to walk through the door. We actually have to go out into the world and tell people about Christ and love people back into the kingdom. Today's saint quote of the day comes from Saint Anthony Mary Claret, and he said this: "When I see the need for divine teaching and how hungry people are to hear it, I am a tremble to be off and running throughout the world preaching the word of God. I have no rest, my soul finds no other relief than to rush about and preach." And to me, this quote perfectly sums up the zeal that we should have for our missionary work. Our very mission is to be missionary. We often make the mistake of thinking that someone else is called to be the evangelist. No, we are all called to evangelism, and yes, that means actually speaking with people, sharing the gospel. We often try and use or misuse, I would suggest, certain quotes to suggest that all we should be doing is living a good life, but never actually talking to people about Christ, and somehow that's enough. It's not. The very fundamental call of the gospel is to go out and to proclaim. And that means that we have to speak, we have to share, we have to talk with people. So perhaps today it's worth stopping and asking and saying, okay, what are the areas, what are the ways in my life where I perhaps could be sharing the gospel with others? Where are those moments and those opportunities? And perhaps you could make it your prayer to ask God for those little moments, those little opportunities, even in the smallest of ways, to begin today to become an active missionary, to begin today to actually live out that calling that we read in today's gospel. We are all called to be fishers of people. That is our fundamental mission as Christians. And today is the day we should stop and ask ourselves, is that present in my life, or is it missing? And if it's missing, what am I going to do to start being more missionary and sharing the gospel with the world around me?